Let's just dive right in. If you're running a CPA firm, you've probably felt it. The ground has completely shifted under your feet when it comes to tax compliance. What used to be the gold standard, well, that's now just the starting line. And holding on to those old habits, that might just be the single biggest risk your firm is taking right now.
Remember this? For years, this was the entire playbook, right? Get the numbers right, file everything on time, and you were a hero. It was such a simple, clear way to define success.
But today, that's just the price of admission. It's the bare minimum. Accuracy and timeliness are, of course, expected. But on their own, they're absolutely not enough to protect you or your clients anymore. The entire rulebook for what good compliance even means has been torn up and rewritten.
So, you're probably wondering what happened. Well, the huge catalyst for this massive shift has been tax reform. But it wasn't some big, loud explosion. It's been more like a quiet pressure, steadily raising the bar and creating a much more demanding and, frankly, a much riskier environment for every single firm out there.
And this change, it goes way deeper than just new tax rates or credits. We're now dealing with totally new reporting requirements, way more detailed disclosures, and a huge emphasis on documentation. And honestly, that's the real game changer. With more subjective interpretations in the code, it's not enough to just be right anymore. You have to be able to defend why you're right.
So the whole mindset has to shift. Compliance isn't that seasonal sprint to the filing deadline anymore. Nope, it's a year-round marathon. It's about maintaining a totally defensible position every single day, from January 1st all the way through December 31st.
Okay, so if the environment is so much riskier, where's all the danger actually coming from? Well, the answer might surprise you. Because the real risk, it isn't where most firms are looking.
So let's reframe the whole problem. Where does that vulnerability, that little crack in the armor, actually begin? I want you to really think for a second about your firm's day-to-day operations, how things really get done.
And here it is. This is the key takeaway. Your biggest risk isn't a star partner misinterpreting some super complex piece of tax law. It's the small, hidden gaps in your own internal processes that create the most exposure. It's all about how you work, not just what you know.
So let's get specific, right? What are these hidden weak points that tax reform is suddenly putting under a giant microscope?
I bet they sound pretty familiar. Things like inconsistent standards, where one partner's work papers look totally different from another's. Or what about those rushed reviews, right before a deadline? We all know that's when corners get cut. Incomplete documentation, or relying on just one person's way of doing things instead of a firm-wide process. These things have always been headaches, but now they're landmines.
And you can see how this just becomes a vicious cycle. That last-minute pressure, it leads to rushed work. Rushed work leads to incomplete documentation and inconsistent standards. That's not a recipe for success, it's a direct invitation for an audit.
All right, enough doom and gloom about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. The goal here is to build a truly defensible process. And that means shifting your firm's entire mindset from being reactive, just putting out fires, to being truly strategic.
Now, there are two main ways you can approach this. On one hand, you've got tax form outsourcing. That's more of a tactical move, right? It's about stabilizing workloads to avoid that last-minute crunch. On the other hand, you can go bigger with tax function outsourcing, and that is a truly strategic move designed to reduce systemic risk by standardizing your entire workflow. And this brings us to a really powerful idea, using consistency as your best defense. By bringing in specialized support, like offshore teams, you can enforce the discipline your firm needs. They follow your firm's checklists, they maintain your standardized work papers, and they help get rid of all those inconsistent individual styles. It's all about building a repeatable, defensible system.
So what's the playbook for the firms with the lowest risk? It looks a little something like this. First, they standardize workflows across the entire firm, no exceptions. Second, they create a really clear separation between the people doing the work and the people reviewing it. Third, they use outsourcing strategically to control all that variability. And all of this leads to the most important outcome. They completely avoid that dangerous last-minute prep work. They treat compliance like a manageable process, not some terrifying final exam.
And this is where it gets really exciting. Because getting this right isn't just about avoiding risk, it's about unlocking a massive competitive advantage. It's about turning a defensive necessity into a powerful engine for your firm's growth. And there's a direct connection here to your clients. Now, they might not know what a standardized work paper is, but trust me, they can feel the result. A weak, chaotic process, it creates uncertainty, and it erodes their trust. But a strong, defensible process builds the kind of confidence every single client is looking for, especially in this unpredictable world.
At the end of the day, a rock-solid compliance process isn't a cost center. It is the foundation for everything else you want to achieve. You just can't sell high-value advisory services if the compliance work that holds it all up is built on sand.
It's really that simple. Without that strong foundation, your advisory opportunities just shrink. If clients don't have complete faith in your core compliance work, that door to those higher-level strategic conversations never really opens. The trust just isn't there.
So I'll leave you with this one question to ask yourself. When you look honestly at your firm, at the way you really work day in and day out, is your process an unmanaged risk just waiting to explode, or is it your single strongest defense?